Going on, people? It's Kid Shorty Gaming Nation in the building, and this is no shot to the Tommy Sotomayor or Mr. Fantastic or the panel, but Mr. Fantastic says something in here, and I wish I should have showed the per capita argument first and then showed this. And if Mr. Fantastic had allowed me to complete the picture, I would have completed it. But he interrupted me and stopped me in mid trying to explain what I was explaining. Mr. Fantastic, I get it. You don't like street niggas because you're not a street nigga yourself, right? I understand that, right? But at the same time, why I do what I do is to not paint black men as all of us are doing this, or all of us are engaging in this activity, in gangbang or street nigga activity. And what Charlie Kirk did and what the right did is paint black men as if we're doing this in the entire population when we're not. Understand? Right? I was trying to paint the picture, and if the picture was allowed to be painted, you wouldn't have said what you said. All right, so let's go back to it. And I get it. You don't like street niggas. I get it. I'm not a street nigga myself. Right? I'm none of those things. But I'm not going to let that cloud my judgment. Right? The reason why I do what I'm doing is because I'm a victim of stop and frisk. Right? And I got painted with the brush because of what street niggas is doing. Right? And what the right does is they take the stats and they manipulate the numbers to make black people look a certain way. So I got to correct you on something. I wish I was allowed able to do that on that panel. All the interrupting and fuck shit y'all was doing, I wish I was able to do it. You feel me? But I don't feel like going back and forth with niggas. Because niggas like to threaten all the other shit. I'm going to come do something to you. And I don't want to get into that back and forth. Because that's not, I'm up here for it. You feel me? Everybody a street nigga. Everybody a dangerous nigga up here. And you talked about the nigga liner syndrome. And I think you caught that syndrome too. Anyway, let's get to it. Go back up here.
If you don't understand statistics, and that is the argument that Charlie Kirk is making.
Yep.
Right now, I think it's fucked up. Let me be clear. I think it's fucked up because I totally agree. I think they're 58% of the population, but they apply for 69% of the rapes, right? Mm-hmm. So percentage wise, that's like extra. I don't know, maybe 25% or something. If you look at ours, we're 12%, but we represent almost 30% of rapes. So that gets to the per capita argument, and that's why I'm saying people really.
Okay. Glad you said that. So this is what I was trying to explain with Mr. Fantastic, right? He was looking over this number, also that about 33% of those arrests were Black or African American persons. For rape results, adults 2019, about 69.6% of the arrests were white persons. About 26.8% were Black or African American. So yes, the 59.1% figure is real statistic, but it's specifically about arrest, not convictions or proven crime rates. I said that on this fucking panel, and somehow this was fucking missed. This pisses me off. Because niggas like to talk like they're intelligent. I'm not trying to be intelligent or talk like I'm intelligent. I'm just trying to get to the facts. But niggas want to be a nigga launderer. Not convictions or proven crime rates. It's not a statement about who actually committed all violent crimes. It's just who was arrested for them. So even if Mr. Fantastic's number, it doesn't matter with the calculations because it's not proven. It's just arrest for it. They're not being convicted of it. But let's continue. But my point was the right likes to paint this brush or paint a narrative, but you don't put the honest nuance to it. If I don't understand statistics, then Charlie Kirk didn't understand it. Neither does his conservative base understand it. That was the point, right? And I said all of this. 58% of the population. 12% of the rape was right. White person is 69.6% of adult rape arrests. Black person is 26.8% of adult rape arrests. Because I cannot articulate I jumble my words. I can articulate what I'm saying. I guess I come across as like dumb, right? So raw numbers, more whites are arrested for rape than blacks, but conservatives really frame it that way. They use the per capita argument, and I'm gonna break that down as well. When it comes to black people, conservatives take overrepresentation, 12% of the population, but 27% of the arrests, and argue this is proof of cultural pathology. I wish I could have gotten to this fucking part, but Mr. Fantastic interrupted me. But he was up there complaining about or bitching about niggas interrupting him. I'm not a little nigga. Maybe on the YouTube streets I'm a little nigga, but in real life I'm not a little nigga. When it comes to white people, or so let me finish reading this. These per capita framing disproportionate crime rate to paint black men broadly as dangerous. They really acknowledge concentrated poverty, structural disadvantages, or see, I can't even pronounce some of these words, and I gotta fix that. Or policing biases. When it comes to white people, even though the majority of violent crimes or arrests are of white people, because of the majority of the populations, conservatives never flip the same logic back. They don't say since whites are 58% of the population, but 70% of the rape arrests, white America must have a rape problem. Instead, they use raw numbers, more whites are arrested, but that's just because there are more whites to minimize the effect. Right? The argument you made about because it's natural because they're a bigger group, and in terms of raw numbers, it minimizes them. It minimized their crime rate. They still have a problem apparently they have a problem with crime in their communities, right? They may be the bigger group, right? And it may be raw numbers, and naturally the crime is going to be committed amongst them, but there's still a crime problem in their community. But Charlie Kirk did not point that out, but he points that out with black people. So they switched the methods on the racial group. Against black people, per capita framing disproportionately equals pathologically. For white people, raw number framing majority equals natural, no pathology. I said it properly, right? So for white people, right, raw number framing majority equals natural, no pathology. And I'm gonna break down why it's disproportionately. The cherry picking, that's not an honest critique. It's rhetorical manipulation, which is what y'all are doing. And I see it. It's just, I'm not an intellectual nigga. I'm not articulate with big words and big fancy words. So when I explain it, it don't come across as I know what I'm talking about. This is why I have to do the PowerPoint shit. But I get it. Y'all want to hold black men accountable and the black culture accountable. I get it. I understand that. I do too. Like earlier I said, I'm tired of being the street niggas who are the minority representing niggas like me. And I get painted with the brush, and people look at me that way. But at the same time, that does not justify Charlie Kirk and his base manipulating the stats to make our culture look away. I'm not justifying the King Von and Little Dirk niggas. I'm not justifying them. They need to be dealt with by our culture internally. I'm not disagreeing with that. But at the same time, I'm not going to defend some bullshit that the conservatives say. It's like I'm not going to defend something that the bullshit that the liberals say. Both of them are devils of the same bird. And just like you conservatives want on the black people on the right, want black people on the left to hold them accountable, you got to hold the right accountable for shit they say. Since the 69.9% of rape arrests are of white people, and whites are only 58% of the population, clearly white America has a rape epidemic. Maybe police should be more aggressive in white communities. I could make that same logic about white people, but it'll be intellectually dishonest, just like Charlie Kirk is intellectually dishonest, right? Of course, that would be misleading, unfair, because arrest does not equal conviction. Structural contextual factors matter for everyone, but expose how the conservatives' talking point against black people is also misleading, unfair, and then it takes away the problems that's going on in their communities that they have. They honestly need to fix that. I'm not like, I don't hate white people. I'm not one of those. Even though back in the day I used to be pro-black, like Minister, what's his name? Captain Desariac and Angry Man. I was part of Moral Science Temple of America. Right? I used to lockstep with them too. So I have that similar story too. I have a lot of experiences under my hat in my belt. I used to be out there in Black National Theater up there when I used to do karate, Goju Power of Self, when I used to be go over there out of Harlem. So I've been in that space too, right? But at the same time, and I agree with the panel, Black people should not be in this, but we should be allowed to speak on it. They're allowed to speak on us. Charlie Kirk was allowed to speak on MLK and take personal shots at MLK. And I've come out and I've made videos prior to this saying, no, you should critique somebody after they're dead, but make an objective assessment or analysis. Don't talk about what his personal life. Talk about what his public life did, what he said in the public, how he changed laws. Attack that. Like when I critique Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton, I don't give a shit that Bill Clinton was fucking hoes in the White House. That's something he did. That's what he did in his private. Privacy is all. I don't give a shit about that. I critique the policies he passed in the public life that he did. Same with Martin Luther King. Yeah, he left hoes in the private. That's his private personal life. What about the civil rights movement? What about what parts of it that he pushed that was wrong? What parts need to be corrected or amended for future reference? Was it a benefit or was it a detriment? And many of us can argue that. I can argue that. Right? That's what we critique after somebody's dead. Not their private personal life, but what they did publicly. How did that affect you publicly? Martin Luther King fucking hoes behind the scenes is not affecting you or me and nobody privately. Angry Man. Now, when Angry Man dropped about with the Margaret Sanger thing, that shit, I did not know that. I did not know that. And if MLK did that, he definitely did it wrong. That's something he did publicly. So that definitely needs to be critiqued. And I might do a video on that and do some research on that and do a PowerPoint about that. Right? Because that's something that the thing that Angry Man brought up about MLK doing a speech with Margaret Sanger, that's something very public that we could critique, that we could say, okay, cool. Maybe he was a horrible human being after all. That we could critique. Fuck him fucking hoes or whatever. That's private life, personal life. But the shit he did publicly with Margaret Sanger, and we know who Margaret Sanger is, a racist that did Planned Parenthood, critique that, because that's something public, understandable. Where Kirk went wrong, he used arrest stats without nuance when talking about Black men. He failed to apply the same standards of analysis to white crime. He ignored the role of over-policing and systematic bias in Black communities. He raised the humanity of Black men by not acknowledging wrongful arrests, innocence project exonerations, and police misconduct. So, Mr. Fantastic, I'm hoping and praying you see this video. But I'm a tether. I'm a Jamaican nigga, but my parents came in legally, born in Black culture, right? I remember growing up in Brooklyn and Queens, the Black American niggas used to pick and bully us, and we had to fight them niggas. So the whole thing about Black Americans allowing us into their culture, that's bullshit for my lens. And that's bullshit for a lot of Caribbean niggas I grew up with. And we had to fight Black American niggas in Eastern New York, Brooklyn, and in Queens, and going to school. The names they would call us, and we had to roast them back or fight them back. I get it. I'm an outsider to you niggas. It is what it is. And you know this. For as much of a tether as I am, I actually give a fuck about Black men in America. That's why I'm doing this. Because all Black men get this brush. So I'm doing this. But apparently, y'all don't give a fuck about your image or your narrative. That's being spun on you. And if the Black manosphere was saying some of the same shit, they're fucking wrong too. So whoever was repeating wrong stats, saying something that Charlie Kirk is repeating, if Tommy said it, I'm correcting you in this space right here too. But I didn't want to go back and forth with Cap or nobody on that panel. And Cap, what he did to Angry Man, oh, you're emotional, oh, you're like a woman. So a man is not supposed to express himself. And I'm gonna do a video on that shit. Our emotions got to be policed and then checked. For what? Come on, Cap. White people do that to black men a lot. White women are allowed to express their fucking emotions, and it's good for them to do that. But we got to be stoic? No. That's why I just I wrote in private chat, thank you, Tommy, for the opportunity. But I couldn't be up there. Because everybody want to be sounding smart and intelligent. And I get it. Y'all want to hold black men accountable. Make the proper argument then. So my critique is on point. If the rest of that alone is not enough to condemn black people, then the rest of that alone should be enough to condemn white people. Read this again. If the rest data alone is enough to condemn black people, then the rest data alone should be enough to condemn white people. But since the argument sounds absurd when flipped, it proves that conservative framing is flawed from the start. That's the flaw. It's just a repeat of what I was saying earlier, so I don't need to put that. I want to put something that Mr. Fantastic, shout out to Mr. Fantastic, subscribe to the brother, big person in the space. Go back here.
You can stay away from statistics if you don't understand statistics. And that's the
telling me to stay away from statistics. I understood it, but if you allow me to paint the fucking picture.
That is the argument that Charlie Kirk is, because I totally agree he was placating to criminals, right? Or committing all his crime, right? But what I'm saying is, though, by the numbers, and then too, if we get it, so now if you also you say 33%, right? So 33% arrests, I think we cap, what is it, 38% in prisons, right?
But remember, he said exonerated.
No. This is what I'm saying. But listen, what I'm saying. Listen. So when the numbers up, even still, what I was trying to get touch base. I think it's somewhere like 38%, right? So what I'm saying is, even arrests are going to be somewhere near and close to what's the name? Now 55% of exonerations doesn't mean 55% of niggas are exonerated.
All right, cool, nigga. Since you so smart, Sigma nigga. I heard you say you call yourself a Sigma nigga. Since you so smart, I got you. Since you so smart. Okay, now I gotta put, because I have ADHD, so I don't remember what's being said. So I gotta put it down in a PDF. So, like when people are talking, an ADHD brain, there's so many things, different points being going around, and it's hard to grab the thought. So I have to put it down on something and keep it as a note. So if you see me not talking or not speaking on the panel, it's because I'm trying to put it down on paper so that I can address it at a later point, which is not good for me in the debate, to be honest. So let's go to this. What exoneration means and related terms. Exoneration generally means that someone who is convicted of a crime is cleared of that conviction, as in shown to be innocent, or that the conviction was fundamentally unjust, often by new evidence, legal error, or misconduct. I even put the Innocent Project and their sources there. Being exonerated is simply the state result of having been exonerated. So exoneration is the noun act, and exonerated describes the person. They're not different in meaning, just grammatically different. They're just like he talked about interracial thing, right? Just grammatically different, right? There's a related but distinct idea of wrongful conviction among convictions, some being convicted wrong. So even the convictions, right, which precedes exoneration. Exoneration is one way to undo a wrongful conviction, though not always perfectly or completely, right? Are black people and black men disproportionately exonerated? What do the numbers show? Yes, the data we have indicate that black people are disproportionately represented among those exonerated, meaning that they make up a larger share of exonerations than the share of the population. And in many cases, they also tend to spend more time in prison before being exonerated compared to white people, right? So that's saying that during the exoneration process, and in many cases, they also tend to spend more time in prison before being exonerated. So they're already in the exoneration process, right? So let me read this again. The data we have indicate that Black people are disproportionately represented among those exonerated, meaning they make up a larger share of exonerations than their share of the population. And in many cases, they also tend to spend more time in prison before being exonerated compared to white people, right? In that small stat of Black men being exonerated, it depends what you mean by small. If small means few in absolute numbers compared to all people incarcerated, yes. Exonerations are rare relative to the total number of convictions or imprisonment. Many people wrongly convicted are never exonerated for the lack of resources, legal barriers, and evidence, etc. But if small means proportional, so mind you, Mr. Fantastic made that example when it came to absolving white people in their crimes because it's relative to their proportional size, right? But when it comes to this, he didn't apply that same logic. But if small means proportionally small, example that Black people are only a small fraction of exoneration, that would be incorrect. The data show that Black people are overrepresented among exoneration. So specific to Black culture and Black community, that would be incorrect to be small. If the exoneration is including white people, Black people, Lamb people, and Asian people or other people, he'd be correct. But he didn't apply that logic to this. He used that logic with white people. Even if you said it came to about 25% of actual rape arrest results, with that logic, apply it to the 26% too, Mr. Fantastic. Also, most data for Black people, generally specific numbers for Black men versus women, are not always separately reported in many of the large national databases. Though many exoneration data sets, the vast majority are men. For example, one data set looked at 873 exonerated defendants, 93% were men, 7% were women. This is color lines, so it's right. So while not all are broken out by race and gender together, we can infer that many of the Black exonerees are men, given them the strong male skew, right? Other disparities. In addition to being more likely to be exonerated in terms of share, there are other disparities. Time served before exonerations. Black exonerees tend to serve longer, on average more years of wrongful imprisonment before being exonerated than white Hispanic exonerees. Black people are about 7.5 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of a murder compared to with whites. Death penalty. So why don't bring up the per capita with this? We can always paint the per capita that Black men are criminals and inherently dangerous, but you don't bring up the per capita numbers when it comes to wrongful conviction. Limitation, what we don't fully know. Data often do not separate by gender, Black men versus Black women, or even age in all reports. So specific numbers for Black men exonerated versus Black people generally are harder to find. Only observe exoneration when cases are taken up, evidence surfaces, etc. There may be many more wrongful convictions that never get reversed. So exoneration numbers are almost certainly an undercount of all wrongful convictions. Different definitions across studies. What counts as exoneration? Some need DNA, some don't. Some counted vacated, convictions for legal error versus proven innocence. So there's legal errors that made them exonerated, right? Or proven innocence versus proven innocence. Elizabeth Henton. So this is my point with the over-policing of Black culture, and I'm a victim of it too, right? Hinton argues that the beginning with the 1960s war on crime predate Nixon's war on drugs. The U.S. government increasingly targeted poor Black communities with heavily surveillance, aggressive policing, and mass incarceration strategies. Neighborhoods weren't just patrolled for actual crime; they were patrolled to contain and control. This meant that normal everyday activities, hanging out, walking home, standing on the corner, could bring police encounters. So the system created inflated crime numbers because the more you police the community, the more arrests you will generate, even for minor or baseless reasons. Those arrests show up in statistics which fuel stereotypes about Black criminality, right? So if you're not heavily policing white communities, right, and they're the bigger dominant group, then yes, the rest, and mind you, they get arrested, they're not getting, like Black people, they're getting arrested for minor stuff. Even for minor baseless reasons. And remember, they're adding the arrest into the crime rate. And like I just showed y'all, arrests don't equal convictions. And there are a lot of convictions that are being overturned or exonerated. But why they're not heavily aggressively policing white communities? If white people are 58% of the population and they account for 69.9% of all crimes, just like black people, 12% of the population, and we account for 26% of the arrests of all crimes. Why is that not an indicator to arrest their communities the same way you're policing black communities? Because the whole point is that the arrest outweighs their population size. Just like with black people, our arrests outweigh our population size. Why they're not being aggressively policed? But I guess if Media Man breaks it down this same way, he's right, but I would be wrong because I'm a tether. Your experience, stop and frisk. You weren't in a gang neighborhood. So this is my experience. I wasn't in a gang neighborhood. I wasn't committing compromises. Me and my homies. We were at the time we were walking from school, going to the bus and going home. And Cambridge Heights, Queens, is not a crime area. Yet I was subjected to a police tactic that was just under crime prevention, but overwhelmingly applied to black people. That moment, while it didn't land me in jail, still entered you into the system's gaze. Police stops, potential, and mind you, there's another incident where I did get arrested. I did go to the precinct in Queens. No, they took me to a precinct all the way out in whatchamacallit. I forgot where it was. But it's in Queens, right? Took me to booked me, fingerprint me, took a picture of me. I had to call my mother. Come to find out, they did whatever the thing that they arrested me for, I didn't do it. It was on a train station. Niggas was fooling around. I was minding my business. Nigga ran past me. They arrested me for what the nigga running past me and booked me. Now I'm arrested for the thing, right? So then when I showed up to court now, right? The judge, so what happens now? If you never committed a crime before and you showed up to the court room, they'll give you like 6 months. If you don't do anything in 6 months, whatever was on your record, it gets expunged. Or they expunge it, or they let it go, or whatever. So that's what happened in my case, but I was still fingerprinted. I was still booked. They still took a picture of me. They would have counted that arrest in that moment. They count that towards the statistics. But I wasn't convicted of anything. That's my point. And I didn't do anything. Niggas was just fooling around on Jamaica Avenue, and at the last stop at the trains at the Jamaica Center. Niggas was fooling around, ran past me, bucked me. Police catch me up as one of them. Arrested me for it. Not because they were too lazy to go chase that nigga. But now I'm booked in the system. My face is there, fingerprint, all that is there. All right? Criminalization of black presence is not black behavior. The state's problem, misrepresentation of black men. I'm right about how the numbers get twisted. If black kid gets arrested even wrongfully, that arrest still enters crime stats unless it's fully wiped out. So maybe my thing didn't because they said in 6 months I don't commit any more offenses or whatever, it was going to wipe it out. So maybe my thing didn't get added to the statistics. I don't know. Right? Many stats cited by politicians or media don't distinguish between arrest charges and convictions. Example: 26% of arrests are black men. It gets interpreted as 26 of black men commit crimes, but in reality, some were innocent, some were targeted because of over-policing, some were exonerated later. The arrest inflates black criminality in public imagination, even though the actual conviction and exoneration data show systematic bias, which is what I was trying to do on that panel. But you applied that logic to white people, Mr. Fantastic, but you didn't apply that logic to black people. That's what I was trying to do. But, you know, it is what it is. Tying it together, my personal story makes the academic point vivid. Hitton's work shows how policy intentionally targeted black communities generated inflated arrest numbers. My experience, I'm living proof of being policed just for being a young black kid, not for being a criminal. The state's issue when wrongful arrest or even eventually exoneration are still used in raw crime statistics, it falsely paints black men as inherently criminal. The same logic you apply to white men, why you don't apply that same logic to black people? A good way to phrase this connection in your content. Elizabeth Hinton shows us that heavy policing of poor black communities didn't just respond to crime. It created crime stats. I experienced this firsthand. I wasn't just a street guy. I wasn't a gangbang. I was just a regular high school kid and still got caught up in stop and frisk. That's how deep it went. And here's the crazy part. If a black kid gets arrested and later cleared, that arrest still counts in the statistics. So even when you talk about the 33% accounted for rape or assault, we know black women lie on black men a lot. And come to find out he didn't do it. And Mr. Fantastic, you know this. So when people say 26% of black men are criminals, they're really looking at inflated numbers built on over-policing and wrongful arrest, not reality. But we'll take that and we use that to bail out white people in their community when we're misrepresenting them or painting a bad narrative on them, but we want to apply that same thing to black men. I don't understand. I get it, Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I like Charlie Kirk. There's nothing wrong with liking Charlie Kirk, but even the people you like, you have to critique and correct when they're wrong. Which is Tommy Sotomayor. What? My fault. Let me slow down. It's what Tommy Sotomayor says. He's probably not a good friend because he's gonna say what's right. Every time me or somebody like Kat points this out, they take it as if we're making excuses for black people. No, we're not. We're not making excuses for black people, especially when it comes to black men. We're just trying to clear the name, the language. Cap's point and my point, Charlie Kirk. Why didn't you not point out white people? Obviously, there's a crime problem going on in their stuff too, and the courts are overlooking it because they're more biased towards black men doing it. Black Americans are disproportionately affected by wrongful convictions, particularly in cases of murder and sexual assault, despite comprising approximately 13.6% of the U.S. population. Black individuals account for over 50% of exonerations in serious criminal cases, highlighting significant racial disparities in the criminal justice system. So I'm not going to go through this. This is fantastic. You can pause the video and you can read this. I don't feel like talking too much. But this is the stat, the graph. National Registry of Exonerations. Right? Whites are 40%, Africans Americans are 47%. So now when we want to clear white people, we'll bring up that they did a lot of crimes, they got exonerated, and their convictions overturned to clear them. But when it comes to us, it's a debate about the grammatical language of the word exonerated versus exonerations, like Mr. Fantastic did. Sexual assault cases by black men are 6 times more likely to be wrongfully convicted of raping white women compared to white men convicted of similar crimes. Innocence Project. Overall exonerations as of 2022, over 3,200 individuals have been exonerated since 1989. But black Americans comprise more than half of these cases, Innocence Project. All right, so this is another thing. Y'all guys can pause and read this. All right, now something else I want to put up here. I'm tired because it's like 1:38 in the morning. Where I'm at. Is this it? No. I did the presentation. All right, so I don't feel like putting this. Now I'm gonna do it. Let me not be lazy. I was gonna show you how I make my presentations and my slides and stuff. I use Canva. So shout out to Canva. Let me show you a graph. By the way, Canva is really good at putting stuff together. So shout out to them. I think they're similar to very similar to Adobe Adobe. I think what's it called, Adobe, something Adobe. So this is, look at this, right? Percentage of those are who are black. 53% of the exonerated people are, and I put the damn resource there. Number years wrongfully imprisoned. All right. But if the exoneration show white people, y'all would agree to that argument. Y'all will apply that logic to them, that they would be wrongfully convicted. But when it comes to black men, per capita, per capita argument versus police violence. I should have put this up there. Per capita means per unit of population. In this context, is often expressed as X number of deaths per 100,000 people. Right-leaning commentators sometimes acknowledge police violence against white people using per capita statistics to show that white victims exist. Example, they might say more white people die at the hands of police overall than black people, which is technically true in raw numbers because white people are the majority of the population. So now, when y'all bring up that white people die at the hands of police because of their bigger numbers, then you apply that logic to them. Then you apply that knowledge. Then you apply you don't use the same logic that you use when it comes to looking at them when it comes to the arrest record. You say that they're just natural because of the bigger population. You don't apply that logic when it comes to now them being arrested by the police. You don't say it's natural for them to be arrested by the police because of the bigger group, or victims of police brutality because of or police violence because of the bigger group. You don't apply that here. When it's here, use this to say that it's a bigger problem with police violence against them than when it comes to black people. But you don't apply that over there when it comes to showing that they have a bigger crime element in their communities than us. You don't apply that over there, Mr. Fantastic. However, when applied to black communities, the same commentators really normalized by population size. Instead, they focus on percentage of police killings versus total deaths. Cite raw numbers to imply black communities are responsible for higher rates of police interactions. Even though the logic is that because they're a bigger group, right? And the logic with us is because we're more concentrated. So of course, and I just told you about Elizabeth Hampton. So we're more concentrated and we're more over-policed, right? So white victims per capita is used to show legitimacy and humanize them. For black victims, per capita is ignored or twisted to imply personal cultural blame. This is what went on that panel by Mr. Fantastic. Blaming black communities for crime. Conservatives often say black people commit a disproportionate amount of violent crime. These per capita statistics selectively to stigmatize black communities, or ignoring the historical and structural causes of high incarcerations or crime rates, segregation, poverty, underfunded schools, or over-policing. Meanwhile, when white communities are victims of police violence, structural context is acknowledged. Example, rural areas suffering from drug epidemics, homelessness, or police militarization. When it's with white people, it's the structure's fault. When it's with black people, it's black people's fault. The double standard. The same statistical logic per capita is applied selectively to humanize one group and demonize another. Impact on black perception. Selective application erodes trust. Black communities see statistics being weaponized against them, rather than used to understand systematic issues. It creates a narrative that black people are inherently responsible for police violence and crime, while white victims are portrayed as unlucky or systematically disadvantaged, even when per capita is similar. Same per capita logic used for different tools or weapons or whatever word you want to use. Objective takeaway. Data isn't neutral. It can be used manipulatively. Objectivity requires using per capita statistics consistently across all racial groups. Acknowledge structural and historical factors, poverty, policing patterns, housing, and education. Separating individual responsibility from systematic influence. When these principles aren't followed, statistics are used ideologically rather than analytically, which is what y'all do up there, was doing on that panel. What crime usually encompasses when conservative media or pundits reference crime statistics? for Black communities. They typically rely on FBI Uniform Crime Reporting or Bureau of Justice Statistics data. Here's what crime can include: arrest, any police arrest regardless of outcome. Example, arrest for shoplifting, drug possession, or disorderly conduct. Important, arrest does not equal conviction. Arrest rates can reflect policing priorities or bias, not just criminal activity. Now, I'm not excluding, like, because, with the Walmart stuff, and, you see Black people going in Walmart and robbing, but you see white people going in Walmart and robbing too, but the camera doesn't focus on the white people robbing from the Walmart. It just focuses on the niggas doing it. Just like with a lot of the riots that took place during George Floyd, and you saw white people in masks and shit throwing bricks. The day out here in New York, I think this was Harlem, there was some leftists, I think Antifa, trying to riot in a certain neighborhood. The Black people chased them niggas, them Antifa people out the neighborhood. I wish I could find the clip, right? Convictions. When someone is prosecuted and found guilty in court, conviction rates are influenced by legal representation quality, plea deals, and systematic bias. Reported offenses includes crime reported to police, such as robbery, assault, burglary, or homicide. No, some crimes go underreported, like white-collar crimes, so reported crimes is not the same as actual crime committed. So you can report crime, but it's not the same as actual crime committed. So note, make that a note. Homicide, violent crime, often highlighted because these crimes are considered severe. Homicide statistics are typically divided by race of the offender and the victim, which is where per capita debates often arise, right? Black Americans are roughly 12 to 13% of the U.S. population. Conservatives say 12% of the population commits 30 to 50% of the violent crime. And you know what's so funny? I did my video first. I saw a media man do a video about the same topic right after. I did my video and released it. But I bet when Media Man breaks it down, I didn't watch his video, I just seen his thumbnail. If he breaks it down this same way, you'll say Media Man is wrong, right? But I'm wrong because I'm a tether. Right? Many of these statistics come from arrest data, not actual conviction data, which is what I said in the last PowerPoint. Many high crime neighborhoods are over policed, producing inflated arrest statistics for Black residents. Now, this is neighborhood specific. Crime rates are neighborhood specific, and concentrated poverty, a structural issue, correlates with higher crime. For example, East New York, Brooklyn, right? Pink housing projects. My father lives in that area, but he lives in the residential area. But I have friends that grew up in that area, right? Then you have Marcy projects. Then you have Linden Boulevard going into Flatbush, Church Avenue. Those are more crime-specific neighborhood areas. Those get heavily policed more. But now you come to Cambridge Heights, Queens. So you have Queensbridge, then you have Cambridge Heights, Queens. Then you got Linden Boulevard going up into Guy Burra, passing. Then you go on Merrick. Then you go into Liberty Avenue. And so now Merrick, it goes into Hillside. Then you have Hillside that goes along into like Woodhaven and then 101st Avenue, right? So then going along Linden Boulevard, you go into Guy Burra. There's certain neighborhoods in Guy Burra that's project areas that's going to have or be over police or have specific crime. But that one neighborhood doesn't represent all of the neighborhoods that Black people live in. Because in Cambridge Heights, where I'm at, by Cambridge Heights, Springfield Boulevard, and then you have about Royal Wilkins Park. Now, when you go to Royal Wilkins Park, going into Baisley and then going into Rosedale, that's more crime specific, right? But then now when you go into like Springfield High School, when you go and take Linden Boulevard, the crime is not so heavy there, and it's Black people living there. And Cambridge Heights is not the hood. It's a good area to be in, clean area, right? But then so that's the crime specific neighborhoods where crime is high in, but it's not encompassing of all Black neighborhoods. Right? Using this statistic as a blunt racial argument ignores systemic causes and weaponizes potential truth. When they say systemic causes or structural causes, they're talking about policies, laws, things that were passed in the past that cause the problems now, right? Now, is that giving an excuse to Black people to wild out today? No. Why are we addressing these things? Because a lot of these laws are still on the books. Just like with the child support thing, right? Which I'm going to do something about the You know how women come up here and talk about we should go back to a matrilineal and back to Africa and indigenous tribes or matrilineal and promiscuity? I'm gonna do a whole video about that tomorrow, Mr. Fantastic. I hope you subscribe to the channel and tune in for that, because I'm gonna do a masterful breakdown of that and how that. But if we were to go back to a matrilineal society, we would fail overnight. Right? This is why white men conquered a lot of the indigenous tribes, because of that matrilineal shit. This is why they don't like white people and white patriarchy, because it proves that matrilineal is ineffective. And black men, they just don't want you to be patriarchal because they don't want you to conquer. Understand? Structural and contextual. And when black men conquer, we don't have to conquer people like white dudes are. We can be ourselves. Have our natural charm, charisma, all that. And I'm gonna break that down in that shit too. Let's watch. Structural and contextual considerations. Over policing. Black neighborhoods are policed more heavily for minor infractions, increasing arrest counts. Economic inequality, poverty, unemployment, and underfunded schools create conditions correlated with higher crime, innate criminality. This part, I actually blame black people today, right? Angry Man refers to a movie, and it had and I watched that movie that Angry Man referred to a long time ago when I was young. When I was younger, I think our teacher showed it in school and we had to do an essay or something on it. It had what's the actor's name? Old nigga. I think he like a vampire or something. Old brother. Morgan Freeman was in it, right? So I actually blame the teacher and the pastors for this in these communities, because a lot of them have 501(c). A lot of these black teachers, they're teaching they're not really teaching these kids anything. So the economic inequality, I actually don't blame that on the structure or systemic. I actually blame that on black people in these communities and in these schools. 501(c), siphoning money from the people and not putting that money back into the community for them to benefit. Understand? So I actually blame that part on the black pastor, the black teacher. I debated with a black pastor the other day, and he was saying a whole bunch of bullshit. The same talking points that black women used about black men being deadbeat, he was using them, and I had to debate his points and show him the statistics where he's wrong. Right? Historical legacy: segregation, redlining, mass incarceration, and discriminatory sentencing all affect statistical outcomes we see today. Now, when it comes to redlining, now we talk about segregation. You can't disagree with civil rights, because civil rights solved that issue. Now, you could debate on how it went about it up front. You could debate that all day, but generally, it solved that issue. A lot of black people, we would not have the opportunities we have without the civil rights thing, right? We talk about redlining. Redlining denied a lot of black people back in the day from having property, land ownership, and building capital for us to benefit today, right? If black people had the opportunity then, we'd have had a lot of black communities, and we wouldn't need to depend on buying houses from white people. Now, for today, black people, this is probably going to be on the shoulders of the millennials, like my age and around Mr. Fantastic's age, because he's in his 40s, right? It's probably going to be on our backs to now buy homes instead of renting, buy a house, get a house, create a nuclear family, this, that, and the third. But a lot of niggas are not interested in creating a nuclear family. I am. I want to. Right? And, I guess I'm a tether, so I wouldn't count in that picture. You understand? So it is what it is. A lot, because it's fantastic. I don't think you say you're going to get married anytime soon. So I don't know how we're going to create black wealth. I don't know how we're going to create a nuclear family. I don't know how we're going to go. I guess you could have black men that amass money and buy homes for black people who want to get married for that. I guess that can happen. You know what I'm saying? But again, and I'm gonna break that down, how having a nuclear family helps to benefit. So there's a lot of videos on the docket I've got to go do to break down a lot of things. So I hope, Mr. Fantastic, when you see this video, you subscribe to it. Other people, when y'all see this video, subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to break down a lot of things. Politics, how Marxism attacks the family, because the family is like a micro generator of the macro capitalism, right? So I'm gonna break a lot of that stuff down. I might do those videos tomorrow. I gotta do a lot of shit in the morning though. Segregation, red line, mass incarceration, and discriminatory census and all affect statistical outcomes we see today. Right. Now, black men have a chance to correct this. It's just that we gotta get over allowing the street niggas to represent. This is why I don't disagree with Mr. Fantastic completely. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Is because I'm trying to separate what the street niggas is doing and not allowing the street niggas to represent us. Even though I have a lot of street niggas that's homies to this day. But a lot of them, when we have conversations, they talk about how they regret a lot of that. And they look at me and say, man, yo, Kish, like you lucky. We wish we'd have followed your path. Because I stayed away from all that stuff. Because that shit was trying to choose a nigga. Like that life was choosing me. Like I wasn't trying to choose that life. I was trying to want to run away from it, but it was trying to choose me. And I'm glad that I did not allow that path to choose me. With my personality type, I could be very dangerous. I gotta tame myself. I gotta check my rage a lot of times. Like on that panel, I wanted to explode. You understand? But I had to tame that. I gotta check my rage. So you know what I'm saying? I'm just glad that path did not choose me to walk down. Key insight. Crime in these narratives is a catch-all term that may include arrests, reported offenses, conviction, and violent crimes. The statistic is used rhetorically to imply inherent criminality in Black people, without considering the structural, economic, and historical factors that actually produce disparities. All right. Bottom line, when you hear phrases like 12% of the population commit 30% of the crime, it's almost always referring to arrests and violent crime data, sometimes convictions, but never the full picture of societal structural causes. It's simplistic, misleading, and often weaponized against Black communities. But when we look at the 58% cause and the 69.9% of the crimes, according to Mr. Fantastic, is actually less than that. It doesn't count. The statement often heard is Black Americans are 12%. And we've been addressing that. All right. This is the important part. Crime is heavily concentrated in Pacific neighborhoods, often urban areas with high poverty, unemployment, and social instability. Research shows a small percentage of individuals commit a disproportionate amount of crimes. For example, studies of violent crime in major U.S. cities often find that 5 to 10% of offenders account for 50 to 70% of violent crimes. These offenders are usually repeat offenders, not the general population. Implication: 12% of the population commits X percentage of crime. Statistics is not describing the average Black person, but a small concentrated subset in a concentrated specific neighborhood. Crime among Black Americans is highly, I do not know how to say this word. I put it there. I know what it means, but I can't pronounce it. That's why I gotta fix my speech. Concentrated. High crime neighborhoods often face underfunded schools, unemployment, lack of access to healthcare, over-policing, and historical housing, discrimination, redlining. Conversely, the majority of Black Americans do not live in high crime neighborhoods or do not engage in violent crime. So crime is not evenly distributed across the Black population. It is localized among specific individuals and areas. The media and some political narratives generalize the crime statistics to the whole Black population, creating a false impression of widespread criminality. In reality, a small subset of people in higher poverty neighborhoods account for a disproportionate share of a violent crime. Most Black Americans are law-abiding and live outside these concentrated zones, which is what I was trying to say on the damn panel, but I couldn't because too many of you nigger-landering niggas got too many nigger-landering personalities. There's something else I want to add to this. Hold on. By the way, I use Google Slides which is free, and I use Canva, which I actually pay for. Right? So, no, that's not it. I want to do a couple things tomorrow. a bunch of videos I gotta create tomorrow. So this is the graph. Concentration of crime individuals. Research consistently shows that crime is highly concentrated among a small subset of individuals, often referred to as chronic repeat offenders, typically findings in urban studies. So chronic offenders, 5 to 10%. All right. Non-chronic minor offenders, 10 to 15%. Right. Law-abiding majority, 75 to 85%, 0 to 10%. A very small fraction of residents in high poverty neighborhoods commit most violent crimes. The majority of residents are law-abiding. I bet if Media Man broke it down, yeah, I would say Media Man is right. If I break it down because I'm a tether, whatever I say, niggas should stay away from statistics. Where the fuck was I at? Oh, right here. High percentage of crime comes from low percentage of individuals. Crime is geographically and socioeconomically concentrated, not evenly spread across the population. Using the 12% population statistic without context misrepresents the realities and unfairly stigmatizes the broader Black population. Structural factors, poverty, segregation, over-policing, limited economic opportunity drive much of this concentration. Age and gender factor. Crime is concentrated among young males, typically ages 15 to 34, which is consistent across all racial groups. For violent crime, about 80 to 90% of offenders are male. So this is across all groups. Crime is concentrated among young males, typically ages 15 to 34, which is consistent across all racial groups. For violent crime, about 80 to 90% of offenders are male. A small percentage of males, around 50 to 10% of that age cohort in high crime neighborhoods, commit repeated violent acts, right? Neighborhood concentration. High poverty, high unemployment neighborhoods see concentration of crime. Example, Chicago studies show 50% of violent crimes come from just 5 to 10% of street blocks. Similarly, in New York and Baltimore, chronic offenders in concentrated areas drive most violent incidents. When people cite 10% of the population commits 30% of the crime, reality is a small subset of Black men in concentrated neighborhoods account for most violent crime, not the Black population at large. This is what I'm talking about, Mr. Fantastic, and that panel. The context is not broken down properly, and it can mislead. Why do we like to allow? Why would you allow the other side, white people, to do this? But when I brought up the white population and their crime rate, y'all excused it and said, "I don't know what I should stay away from statistics." I'm not fucking stupid. Crime statistics are misleading when generalizing an entire racial group. Intervention that targets structural problem. Well, again, I already blamed this on the Black pastors and all the other stuff, right? So this part here is more of a community problem. It could be a structural problem too, but it's more of a community problem, right? More. Public perception often ignores this concentration, but stigma against the broader population, right? Interracial homicide. So this is something that Mr. Fantastic brought up. 81% of white homicide victims are killed by white offenders. This statistic underscores that similar to Black communities, white individuals are predominantly victimized by perpetrators of the same race. So why would you bring up Black people who commit crimes against white people? But most of the crimes committed against white people are the white people. Why would you target Black people? As if we're the bigger threat to them over them being a threat to themselves, which I think was Cap's point. Arrest data in 2019, white individuals accounted for 69.4% of all arrests in the United States. This includes arrests for the various offenses not limited to violent crimes, right? So I already went through all of that. 91% of Black homicide victims are killed by Black offenders. This statistic is consistent with the pattern observed in white communities, indicating that both groups experience high rates of interracial violence. So both groups experience this. And Cap's point is, and my point was, why are we not policing both communities heavily like we police Black communities, right? I don't gotta break this down. I think I broke this down to nausea. Structural factors. The high rates of interracial crime in both white and black communities are influenced by structural factors such as poverty, unemployment. Now, maybe maybe I can I could say that because when I did a video about Bill Clinton's policies, the structure will be the Bill Clinton's policies that he passed on the 90s and the 90s, early 90s, with NAFTA taking away jobs from black men. I did a whole video breakdown on that, so go watch that video. So that's some structural things, that could have caused a lot of poverty in black communities. And then when you go to Bill Clinton, I forgot the policy it passed, but it caused the crash in 2008, the housing crash. So that took away a lot of homes from black people that were already struggling from NAFTA to rebuild themselves. So, that's some structural things, some systemic things that are outside of black people's control or black men's control specifically. Need for reform. Addressing disparities in arrest rates require comprehensive criminal justice reform, including measures to eliminate racial profiling and ensure equitable law enforcement practices. So before I do that, let me show you what I mean by structural, or what they mean by structural or systemic. Right? That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I did this as a live. I should have did this as a pre-recorded. The process. So this is what I mean, right? So this is a structural thing, right? This is a structural thing. These are all structural stuff. All structural stuff. This is the one that Bill Clinton passed that affected the housing crash in 08. This is a structural thing. I'm not going to go through all of this right now because it's not part of the video. I'm going to do something about this specifically. Matrifocal and matriarchal. I'm doing something specific about that. We'll do that tomorrow. But these are structural things. In the Bill Clinton video, I broke down how his policies push the black culture, the black community to be a more matrifocal, a matriarchal, right? So I did that breakdown in that video. But let's go back to this. White individuals accounted for, so I already run through that. You run through that. So this is but remember, the arrest rate is higher in black culture because what? They're in concentrated areas and they're more police. This is a bigger group. And white people are more dispersed. So the 1.2 arrests per person is not going to be as high as their communities because A, they're more dispersed across the nation. They're not in concentrated areas. And B, they're not heavily or aggressively policed as black culture. All right. But those are two layers. The distribution of population across urban and rural areas significantly impact crime statistics. Black Americans are more likely to reside in urban centers, which typically have higher crime rates due to factors such as poverty, unemployment, and social instability. Conversely, white Americans are more dispersed across suburban and rural areas, which generally experience lower crime rates. This geographic concentration means that even if black individuals commit crimes at a higher per capita rate, the overall crime rate in predominantly white areas may be lower due to the distribution across less densely populated regions, which I think a brother posted that in a super chat or rumble pay, however you call that, over on Tommy Sotomayor's channel. Key takeaways. Absolute arrest numbers are higher among white individuals due to their larger population size. Per capita rates are higher among black individuals, indicating a higher likelihood of arrest relative to population size. But when I made that argument it doesn't matter. Geographical concentration plays a significant role in crime statistics, with urban areas experiencing higher crime rates than suburban or rural areas. Understanding these factors is essential for a nuanced analysis of crime statistics and for addressing underlying structural issues that contribute to disparities in arrest rates. Right? Kind of getting tired. One could argue white people are more dangerous because they make up the majority of the arrests in raw numbers. You can even suggest policies targeting the white population, specifically mimicking how some narratives focus on black population. The deviant logic is identical to the way 12% of the population commits 30% of the crime. It's framed to stigmatize black communities, which I broke down. Population distribution. Black Americans are more concentrated in urban centers, making crime more localized and predictable. White Americans are more spread out, meaning raw arrest numbers are higher overall, but less predictable geographically. Right? So, let me put that. This is what I'm not taking. I've been saying it through this whole video. Right? I'm not making excuses for black people. I'm acknowledging higher per capita rates, arrest rates, and crime rates in certain areas. The need for internal community reform, including respect for authority, self-policing, and reducing inter-community violence. These are real issues that require proactive solutions from within the community. So I'm not taking away accountability from black people, which I think y'all miss. I am getting the conservatives to stop pushing a narrative and manipulating the stats to, I guess, appease your base. All right. Right. Which I think even a Charlie Kirk would have been balanced like this, black people would have still torn him up. So I'm not disagreeing with Mr. Fantastic. I think if any white person addressed it like this, they would have still torn him up. Angry Man could say it like this, and they would tear him up. Tommy Sotomayor could say it like so. I agree with that part of the panel, right? I do agree with that, but that's not my argument. My argument is when narratives are being spoken and half truths are being made. Just like when Tommy came out with that birth rate thing, when he said that black women are attributed to 70% of the birth rate. I can correct that and break that down too. I have a slide for that. I can correct that. I have a slide for that. Because at the time, I didn't have the information. I didn't have the research data to research it. I don't think the research data was even available at the time. And at the time, I was trying, there was a lot of stuff going on with me at that time. Because at the time, I was like in my mid-20s, 24, 25, 26 at that time. So I've been listening to Tommy for a good while. I think since 2013 or something like that. Where critiques on the target of black communities, it reinforces stereotypes about inherent criminality or cultural dysfunction. It ignores historical and structural context, or I'm not gonna keep reading the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all get the motherfucker. Anyway, I did the breakdown. Hope Mr. Fantastic see it. You know what I'm saying? You can critique it after, you can correct it after, whatever. Maybe we have a panel show about it. It is what it is. But my overall point, I'm not taking away accountability from black people. We're some fucked up people. We can watch even the educated of us. Like when Charleston White went to that campus to speak and you had educated niggas talking about snitching. I completely understand that. But you cannot allow the narrative or the stats to be manipulated to demonize one group, but then that same stats or same formula of the same stats are used to humanize the next group. Or don't apply the same logic across the board. That's my argument. I don't think Charlie Kirk should have died. I wish he was alive. Maybe I could have debated him. Nobody deserves to die because of their fucking opinion. It's a freedom of speech. And black people have a right to critique it. It's news. Everybody, so by that logic, the Mexican niggas shouldn't critique it. Asians shouldn't critique it. Nobody should critique Charlie Kirk. Do I agree that black people should just critique it as news? They shouldn't take personal shots. They should be praising the dead. They want to make all the argument, even though they were saying, white people were saying shit about George Floyd and the kid out in Florida. You know what I'm tired of? I'm tired of the back and forth from both white side and the black side. The seesaw shit, back and forth shit between black people and white people, that needs to be dead in the water, bro. Because the real issue is not, like Mr. Fantastic said, the issue is straight niggas versus gay niggas. And my thing I'm pointing out, the bigger issue is centralized government. This country, before Donald Trump, was slowly turning into a communistic, socialist country. And because the left made everybody fucking mentally crazy, right? That's going to be a bigger problem that we're probably going to see, not today, but later on. This thing between Charlie Kirk and the T community and the alphabet community, this is just a match being struck of a bigger problem we're going to see later on. In my opinion, I think we're going to be like the video game Cyberpunk. And I might not be alive to see that era. I probably might be an old nigga by the time we see that. Go play that video game Cyberpunk. There was a lot of transhumanism in there. There was a lot of android shit going on in there. I literally think that's where we're going to be. I don't know if we're ready for that. But yeah, my Mr. Fantastic argument that he pointed out, this gay nigga versus straight nigga argument, I agree with that. I think what's been attacking black culture and American culture for a long time has been Marxism and communism. They've been trying to turn this capitalist country into a Marxist communist society because America has been the empire of tradition and capitalism or traditional values. It's like what Captain America said to when he went to the boat, when he went into the bunker with Black Widow, and they were talking to Zola, and Zola said, every time we try to raise up and project our values onto the world, something from the West, meaning Captain America, American values, rose up to stop us. So a lot of times they tell you what they think in their movies. So a lot of people that are Marxist or communist ideals, they look at America as a threat. It's just unfortunate that America has a slave history. It has a race history on it. So what the left does is they weaponize that of black people to use that to say patriarchy is bad and traditionalism is bad. And then the right, to attack the left's base, they'll take something that happened to black people or something negative that we're doing, not as a whole, but as a subset, minority of us doing something wrong, and then demonize us for that. So both sides are doing similar shit. And black people are just caught in the middle of it. Right? I don't like either side. I hold either side accountable for something. I've done videos holding the liberals accountable for something. And I'm going to do videos future. I have a slide built for how the left and the right has taken advantage of black people. I have a slide built for that. And I'm going to do a video on that. You know what I'm saying? But again, I don't think Charlie Kirk should have died. I wish he was alive so, people can actually debate his talking points. Tell it intellectually and beat him that way. He shouldn't have died, especially in front of his kids, especially for freedom of speech. And I'm glad that a lot of black people that are saying a lot of stupid shit are getting canceled because a lot of black people on the left canceling a lot of niggas on the right. So it is what it is. Anyway, Kiss Shorty Gamer Nation. Like, share, and subscribe. I should call myself Tether Nation. Tether Nation.